On. So I always wanted to do this. So, yeah, I'm live. And originally I thought I was going to be in the park. And I'm kind of stalling right now to see if anybody's going to jump on. There was a short notice in the process because I wasn't sure I was able to go live because I don't have enough subscribers, at least to use my phone. So I'm using my webcam on my laptop instead. So, anyway, I'll wait another minute before diving in. So I'll try to not to say so many times. Okay. This video is about overcoming anxiety in regards to money and how you feel about money. So there's a lot of background information that we feel about money. So childhood expectations or the things that we were told when we were children about money and how our parents dealt with money. So that kind of built the foundation about how we feel about money. So so thank you for joining us, for joining me. And yeah, today I want to share the strategies for overcoming fear and anxiety for when you're dealing with money. Hi, Churchill. Churchill. So thanks for joining me. So yeah, by the end of this video, we want to talk about the limiting beliefs about money. And it definitely feels better having somebody on there. So thank you so much for joining me. Um, so have you ever felt anxious about money, about the limiting beliefs that hold you back? So we'll talk about childhood beliefs. Do you have any? So first of all, my childhood beliefs about money. Um, my mom was the spender and my dad was the saver. So they kind of clashed, and there was a lot of fights and arguments about money. So that's what I got to see. I saw a lot of conflicting information about money, and so I kind of go through different periods of time where I'll spend and then I'll save, and there's that guilt all the time. So I didn't know anything about money, so I had to learn on my own. So over time, I just started feeling the more I learned about it, the better I felt. And understanding the nervous system is actually very helpful because we have the prefrontal cortex of our brain that tells us to do something, and we see things in the physical world. So I want to reach out and grab a glass of water, so I physically reached out and grabbed, and that was very easy for me to do. I saw something, I reached out, I accomplished it, and there it was. But sometimes, so when we think about money, we think, oh, if I work really hard physically, I'll be able to achieve that goal. So a lot of us are stuck in that grind of physically working to get money. So it's kind of, the system is set against us. So if we are using money to work for us instead of us working for money, we kind of flip the script and do things a lot differently. So I said about the the prefrontal cortex of our brains sees things in physical form. So when we don't see what we want, we get overwhelmed and we tend to give up, or we'll fight for it and we'll just grind down until we just can't get to that point to achieve that goal. And then there's that fear part in our brain, the reptilian brain part of the brain, that even if we have so much desire for that thing we want to accomplish, there's always that subconscious belief that holds us back. and tells us that we can't accomplish it, or it's almost like a uncomfortable, uneasy feeling that kind of creeps up on us, and something that's challenging or unknown, like me being live on video, is it's unknown, and it's doing anything uncomfortable or anything that you're not used to. It's it can manifest itself in a feeling of uneasiness or even illness. People tend to avoid things that are uncomfortable, and they procrastinate. I'll do it later. Like with me with checking my 401k, because it was so uncomfortable for me because it was related to money, I just avoided it. I didn't even want to see. And then once I was able to figure it out, I started asking my other coworkers if they've checked their 401k, because I felt like, oh my goodness, I figured it out and I want to share it with everyone else. I don't want to be the only one that knows this. I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to share this information so other people can do it too. So that's why I started the YouTube video, because once I retired, I didn't want to sit around and do nothing all day. I wanted to be able to help people, because that's what I'm all about. So when I was working, I was helping people. I was coaching moms with kids that had disabilities. And a lot of the times, many of the kids that I saw had we called sensory issues and sensory like behaviors. And their behaviors were a manifestation of their nervous system. So adults have behaviors too, and it's directly connected to their nervous system. So if they're feeling uneasy or anxious about something, they're likely to have different behaviors that they don't even realize they're doing it. So, like more like subconscious or unconscious behaviors. So avoidance is a big one, and then there's that fight or flight. So the fight part is when you're working really hard and you're really frustrated and you can't figure out what you need to do next. So, but we need that. We need that fight part to help us take action, to fight through the scary parts, and to know that, to help us build confidence along the way, because every time you accomplish something that you didn't think you could before, you get that much better each time. So some of the things when I was a kid, I would think about, um, yes, you shouldn't look at your investments, but you're supposed to just let it do its thing. Yeah, I agree with that. I tend to check my investments probably more than I should, only but I've taught myself that I'm not gonna do anything regardless, whether it goes up or down. And there's been times where, because I made a decision where it's in there no matter what. It's not going anywhere, because in the long run, I am just letting the money grow and live, so I can live off of the interest. And it seems like a ginormous type of way of thinking about money. It's just like you're waiting for your money to grow before you can spend the money. So that way it never runs out. So it's a something I've learned from all the books that I've read. There was times where I was watching my investment grow every year or every quarter, and I would look at the statement. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then one year, I think it was in 2022, everything went down, and I just, okay. But I'm not going to do anything. I already said to myself that I'm not going to sell it no matter what. So because that's the worst thing to do, is sell it while it's down. If anything, if you have extra cash, put a little bit more in if you feel like that's what you want to do. Ideally, it's more the dollar cost average, and you want to add things in over time, gradually over time. So yeah, I I recommend you keeping an eye on it, being aware of it, but not to the point where you're obsessed over looking at it all the time. But thank you. So when we're thinking about childhood memories, I remember sometimes we'd think about, I thought sometimes we'd hear people talk about rich people being bad, And that's definitely not the case because there's plenty of people, wealthy people with money, and there's people without money. They could be good people with money or without money, and there could be bad people with money and without money. So I think the money is just an accelerant of the personality. So if that person had no money and it was a jerk, and then they had money and then they're a jerk in a different kind of way. So if you're a good person and you're generous and kind and doing things ethically and you have money, there shouldn't be any element of guilt. You should give yourself permission to be wealthy. And a lot of times it's the people that in our circle that if they see us growing, they tend to be jealous. So that part, it doesn't help, but that's why it's best not to tell people your plans and just keep it to yourself until things are blooming. And if anything, you can walk your path. And if they see that you're doing well, if anything, they can just follow in your footsteps instead of pulling you down and trying to steer you away from your goals that you want to do. And so when I was a child and if I saw somebody that I thought had money, people didn't really talk about money over the course of my lifetime, but especially people that had money, they didn't usually talk about it. So if I saw somebody that I thought had money, I was always happy for them. Like, how'd they do it? I want to do that too. I want to be able to have a nice house and a nice car someday. When I was a kid, I would think those things. Um, but also, I don't have any animosity towards my life and how the experiences. So, I was a waitress and I was a bank teller. So those types of jobs, they were hard work, and I really got to learn the value of working and money and starting off very small and building it over time. So yeah, I would always want to be happy for others, and yeah, I'm trying to think what else. um, so when I was starting the investing process, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear of making a mistake. And the thing with making a mistake, you can't really overcome that unless you get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. So that was a mindset I learned from working out. So you can't just go and lift 500 pounds starting at 500 pounds. You got to start small and build your muscle over time with starting with a small weight and build your way up. And the same thing with running. I always loved the run track and cross country. I did that in high school, and still I run on a treadmill or run outside. um, Starting off slow with walking around the block and then building your way up over time. So money's the same thing. You learn about it. You start off with where you are and you learn about it and you learn how to invest. It felt a lot like learning a new language. But I picked the language, I picked the parts that I needed. So I didn't need to know every single thing about investing. I learned the parts that I needed that worked for me that I can apply. Um, so there was things about investing that involve real estate and things that I got my real estate license and wanted to buy investment properties, but it just didn't work out for me. It was just I'm not saying I'll never do it, but at that time and then up until now, it's hasn't been in the cards. I might do it later, but for now, I'm just sticking with regular investing money in the stock market. So some of the things that I did to help me with that belief was I would write my goals. And my mom told me in the past, you said that, Daphne, every time you wrote your goals down, things happened. I wouldn't say every single time, but a lot of times. I would write down very specific. So it's more than just writing the goal down. I actually sat and I visualized the the accomplishment. So, it was like whether it was, whether making more money, and even some back when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a cheerleader. I started off, I tried out, I failed and didn't make it. And then I just kept practicing and I kept visualizing myself being to that point. And it finally happened. It took years, but I didn't give up. I kept trying. And that's really what this is all about. It's like setting your mind to what you want, believing in yourself that you can do it, imagining it, picturing yourself, and it's more than just seeing it written on paper and seeing it on your in your bank account. It's about who you want to be in that moment. So picture yourself as the wealthy person. What does that person do? How do they think? How do they act? What are their habits? What are their daily routines? And they people with money, people that are wealthy, they look at money completely different than people that don't have a lot of wealth. So people that don't have a lot of wealth, I don't want to say poor people, but it's relative. um, but usually are people that are in survival mode. So you can have somebody there that's making $200,000. They still can be in survival mode because of they extend their circumstances so much. They go into debt with buying things that they can't afford. They overestimate how much money they actually have. They don't factor out the taxes and everything else. So you could be making a lot of money and still feel stressed and overwhelmed because you're extended too far. So yeah, where was I going with that? um yeah, write down your goals. Oh, and so the other thing is, when you tell yourself something about, if you see that you really want to buy something, and instead of saying, "Oh, I can't afford that," and if you really want to figure out, how can I afford it, start shifting things around to the point where it's like, I can do that. I can, do certain things to get to that point. And we have a comment here from Churchill. The older I got, the more I started thinking about money. It wasn't something that I was really ever concerned about. Now I'm kind of scared because I never paid attention when probably I should have. So it's the awareness is key, because it's showing that as you're getting older, you're starting to become more aware of it. And that's half the battle. When you're aware, you're halfway there. So as opposed to not, as opposed to being completely unaware or clueless. And I would consider myself, when I was younger, I was absolutely clueless. I thought what everybody else thought, I think, about, you finish school, you get married, and your husband will take care of you, um and that you just had to do your part and take care of the kids and get a job, and if you have a good income, you live happily ever after. Well, that's definitely not the case if you don't manage your money correctly. So you have to think of the the money as a tool, and I see money now as seeds to be planted. And if you plant it in soil that is just going to just blow away or get rained out, it's you're just saying goodbye to it. So that's when you buy a liability. So I really wanted to talk about the difference between assets and liabilities, because that is the clincher. That was my aha moment when it came to understanding my understanding about wealth. So when I learned that investments are assets, that money, you put that in there, and that money makes money while you sleep. I mean, there are times, of course, that stock market, the money does lose while you sleep, but historically speaking, it grows. I mean, you can have risky um, investments where they're more volatile. They might go make a lot have a lot of growth, and they might, crash, but, you have to do your research on individual companies. So some individual companies, if you look at their track record and they say they've been in business for the past 10 years, and you look at the track record where they started and where they are now, you might see there's like dips that go down, but then they shoot back up and then dips. But over the big, if you pan out, if you look at how they did today and versus 1 month, 6 months, you know, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it just keeps getting better and better. And that's the kind of company you would want to if you're doing individual stocks. But ideally, the safer bet is the S&P 500. And I hear about it everywhere. The more I research about it, you look at the big picture of how they're doing, and it's usually 10% over time. Hold on. Is it working? Is everyone ever able to see me okay? Let me just checking. My daughter texted me. Okay. All right. We got good. Oh, okay. So somebody's waiting on Facebook. Okay. Um, yeah, where was I? I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I was talking about assets versus liabilities. So assets grow money while you sleep. Liabilities lose money while you sleep. So it could be something. So buying a house is is ultimately a liability while you're living in it, unless you're renting out part of it or renting out if you buy a duplex and you're renting out part of it, and if it covers the rest of the house, you're basically that is an asset. Until you sell that house, then it's and then you have to turn around and buy something else. So basically, a house is a liability for the most part because you have to pay for the expenses and everything like that. And then there's okay. I keep getting interrupted from the different things. So I'm trying to stay focused. Focus, Daphne. So did that answer your question about overcoming? Yeah, you still feel kind of scared. Yeah. Yeah, it's when you're not used to it, if it's not how you're brought up, it's definitely scary at first until you start seeing momentum over time. And that momentum happens over time with habits. And the say there's 100 habits or 300 habits that you can start applying, but you don't want to do them all at once. It would drive you crazy. So it might be something like, you know what, I can save money on my phone bill. Let me switch that. So that might take 1 day. And then the next time around, you like, there's something I can save money here. And you just start doing hacking away, and you do a couple different habits a week, and you just keep practicing that until it becomes a routine, a habit, and you don't have to think about it. It's just second nature. Like every time I look at something to purchase, I think about it. Do I really need it? Do I really, is it something, do I want? Do I need? Is it going to enhance my life in any way? So a lot of times I'm addicted to buying books because like I call myself a self-help junkie, but it's it's helped me grow because I'm doing the work, the inner work to help me overcome a lot of limiting beliefs. And there's so many different hacks, there's so many different things to do to help you overcome your fears and to just grow as a person that you were born to be. When we living in this world, there's so many fears, and if you just get rid of all those fears, that concept of fear, that's basically an illusion. I mean, I know there's things that are really super scary, and there's threats and things like that that make people feel fearful, but sometimes at the end of the day, a lot of the thoughts, the ruminating thoughts that we might have, at the end of the day, nothing happened. Nothing came to pass. We're just stuck in fear with our thoughts. So those thoughts can freeze us and stop us from taking action. So we want to do things to help eliminate those fears by, I was talking about writing goals. There's meditation. Before this video started, I did some breathing exercises and meditation, and just to help calm my nervous system, because this is my first time live and on YouTube, and it's a little scary. So I needed to overcome that and just not think about myself, as and to think about anybody out there that I could be helping. And I'm helping in some way, shape, or form, Churchill. And so I appreciate you being here, not just to support me. I'm here to support you, and I have so much information to share to help enrich your life. So it's are you yeah. Yeah, oh, and another thing I wanted to mention too is the a gratitude journal, or just even saying something that you're grateful for, and start wherever you are. It could be something that you have the ability to take a deep breath. You have the ability to walk and talk and read and write and see and hear and eat. And, there's so many things that we take for granted. And it's not until you see somebody that can't do so many things that you take stock of what you can do, what you have, and having a roof over your head. I just heard somebody talking the other day. It's like, I'm so glad I had enough money to pay my electric bill, or I'm so glad I had enough money for my mortgage or my phone bill, because I feel so privileged to have a roof over my head, or able to call somebody anytime I wanted to, instead of complaining about the bill. They have the money to pay for it. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do. Let's see. Okay, so I don't have the time to educate myself about money. Can I just use a hire a financial advisor and turn it over to them? Yes, you can do that. Um, I did have a financial advisor when I first started out, and they weren't really advising me too much. So I highly recommend, learn whatever you can. Um, you don't have to read the whole book. The a couple books that I got over time was the Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and that's where he talks about the assets versus liabilities, and that completely shifted everything. And seeing how investing over time actually grows, even if you're starting late, you can just up the amount of investing, instead of starting with $20 a month, whatever. So you have to be able to start from where you're at, and basically know um your starting point, knowing your assets and your liabilities, knowing your net worth, to know where to start. But a lot of times, so I would go with a fiduciary. So finding a person that has your back, that has your best interest in mind, instead of somebody that's going to be charging you the higher fees to manage your money. I mean, you can do that. You can start off with that while you're this way, the money's invested, and then you can start researching the different stocks. And that's what I did. I had my money in the 401k. And okay, a fiduciary is they're like a financial advisor, but they have no um, stock in. They have no stock. No pun intended. They're not trying to. Um, yeah, Desiree said the same thing. So they're not trying to sell you a product. They're completely there for you. And so they know all about investing and the stock market, and they'll steer you correctly. And I learned that in the book, the Bogglehead Book of Investing. Let's see if I can find it here. There we go. So this was a book that I used, and it was very helpful. Um, he talked about there's a part in here about the fiduciary in here. So I don't know what page it's in. So I highly recommend that. The book is called um, Boglehead Boglehead Guide to Investing. So he was a fiduciary. He passed away, but he talks about all the different investing things. And this was one of the best books I've read about financial independence. So, did you get the name of the book? The other book I mentioned was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book is here. You can tell I read the heck out of this book. It's beat to hell. So this is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. There's a lot of glare on it. So that's what I mean. I don't just buy the book. I read it, and a lot. Actually, I encouraged my son to read it. I think he read the same book too. I forgot about it. I bought the Rich Dad Poor Dad guide. No, the game. It was kind of like Monopoly. It was a very pricey game, but the kids learned a lot about investing using that game, and it showed you how to um escape the rat race. So I'm so excited about this because we got a lot out of it. We sat around the table, and it you picked cards, and it tells you what your occupation is. And some of the kids, they're happy, like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm making X amount of money. And then somebody else said, oh, I'm a janitor, I'm not making that much money. But if you follow the game, right, the rules of the game, the doctor actually didn't do as well as, no, they end up doing just as well if they followed the plan. If they didn't follow the plan and they spent money faster than they made it, the doctor didn't do as well. So so it showed you how to list your assets and your cash flow and your liabilities and your expenses. So if you can get your cash flow to match your expenses, you were free. So that's what I did. Once I was able to make my cash flow equal my expenses, I was free. So what I had to do, I had to lower my expenses. I couldn't just say, I have all these expenses and I need all this cash flow. I had to say, all right, well, if my cash flow is this and my expenses are this, I had to do a little bit of both. So one had to get bigger. So, and I'm I'm meeting my expenses. It's not like I'm rolling in it, but I'm able to buy my time so I have freedom. So I can reach out and help other people get to this point, because let me tell you, knowing I don't have to go to work every day has been so refreshing, that have time for my family, for my health, for my life. I can't buy a new car. I can't do, certain things. I can't travel the world, but at least I have my time. And that means, it means so much to me. So everybody's at their different levels. And this is the level where I'm at right now. And now I want to turn around and help other people. So just like real life. Yeah. Yes. So how does anybody have any questions? The things that I use to reduce my anxiety is the meditation has helped me tremendously. So yeah, meditation, journaling, and just the mindset. And I know as soon as we get off this call, I'm gonna be like, darn, I forgot to say this. And just basically just embody the the feeling that you can overcome anything. And just knowing that if when you take the steps little by little and start building that confidence in yourself and you look back and see where you were and where you are now, you start feeling like I can do this. It takes some time and it takes some courage, and it's watching, when you wake up in the morning, you decide, who do I want to be? Do I want to live the same day I did yesterday and the day before and the day before that and over the years and never change? You want to see yourself as changed and start making the decisions first thing in the morning. What would a person with wealth do? How would they be thinking? What would they be talking about? Who would they be hanging out with? And that sometimes that's a huge factor of who we're hanging out with. People that are draining our energy and um, kind of mooching off of us. That sometimes that gets very frustrating. Oh, if I had to start all over again tomorrow, yeah, the first step is, um, yeah, gathering all my debts, all my bills, and figuring out how much money I am spending on a monthly basis, and seeing where I can cut it. My wasting money on subscriptions or um, just paying too much money here and there, and then there's money I can trim. That would be one of the first things I would do, and then look at how much money I'm making and or need to make to cover those expenses, and then see how I can make those meet. So that would be the first thing I would do. And the second thing I would do is once I trim down my expenses, I would put that money directly into a savings account and build an emergency fund. So I want to start with at least a 1 month emergency fund and then have it build over time, up until 6 months. You can do it up to a year. Some people do a 2-year emergency fund. So if they have money in the stock market and the stock market goes down, they don't have to worry about it. They say, I have a cushion right here. I've heard of people putting, I don't have this, but people have a CD ladder for 2 years, and just in case, and they don't touch it. That money's making money, but they do it in a ladder where if something were to happen, they can take money out of that CD without paying a lot of so if you take money out when the stock market's down, you're losing money. You're taking money at a loss. If you do take it out, you want to take it out while it's high or have that emergency fund. Oh, okay. What strategies would be different if you're married versus single? Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. So I thought, sometimes if you're married, you're thinking, oh, I have dual income. We have twice as much money together. But then you have two minds that are thinking differently. So, as much as the dual income is helpful, and which it can be, but if you have two separate points of view about money, one likes to spend and one likes to save, like my parents were. Um, sorry, mom and dad. Um, it tends it's like you're pushing the gas and the brake at the same time and you're just not getting anywhere, and it's very very frustrating. So if you're married and you have the same goal, oh man, you can really take off. You can save so much time and energy if you're working together saving, and if you're just like, and you're not going against each other, you know um You sometimes you hear of like a woman going shopping and they're hiding the stuff from the husband. No, 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 no. You want to be honest. You want to tell each other this is our goals. We're going to have like a vacation goal, a savings goal, a retirement goal, so you can work together instead of against each other. So that's my advice for a married couple. If you're single, just you're starting where you're at. You don't have anybody going against you. You don't have anybody. It's all on you. And in some ways, it's liberating. And in my case, I felt so liberated doing it by myself. It was, even though I was scared, I felt like everything, that every decision I make is for me, and I take the blame and the credit. So whenever I made a mistake, I made an adjustment. There was no arguments. I was just like, all right, I made a mistake. All right, let me auto correct. Let me correct and change directions. And so there's pros and cons to both. Yeah, try to for recommending a high yield savings account. Um, Apple actually has one. The Apple credit card, they is actually linked to a 4% um, ratio interest rate. So I just got that one actually. I'm not a fan of credit cards. I would only get one if they're offering 0% interest and you pay it off on time. Otherwise, you're like playing with fire, because if you don't pay it off by the end of the promotion. So in my case, I had to buy a new laptop because my I blew up my other laptop. So I just bought this one and it was 0% interest and I have 1 year to pay it off. So I broke it up over time, over a 1 year period. So yeah, there's other, I would look online because things are changing all the time. I think I'm kidding. Put the questions in the comments, please. I can't be looking at both things. Um, I'm sorry. Um, how important is it to focus on paying credit cards to get? Oh, absolutely important. Okay. You want to, if you have, all right, so if you're breaking everything down and looking at just the numbers alone, not just the amount of the bills, but the amount of the interest. So if you so I would say, for example, I wanted to pay off my mortgage. My mortgage was 3%. So, and meanwhile, my credit card was 21% or whatever. And my investments was 10%, was making 10%. So when you look at it, you're losing more money with the credit card at 21% compared to spending the money on the mortgage and then making the money on the 10%. So if you break it all down, pay off the credit card. That's the first thing you want to do, is pay off the highest interest, especially anything over 5%. That's the rule of thumb that I hear. 5%, 8%. And then there's the, college loans, student loans. I'm not sure what their interest rates are now, but yeah, you want to focus more on that, because that is the money making machine for the credit card companies. Because the banks are, when you put money, this is another thing. The banks, if you have money in a savings account that's making less than 1%, they are using your money and they're investing that money. So make no mistake, you're losing money while they're making money. So they're using your money for their money making machine. So that's why if you need to have a couple bucks in a savings account for emergency, you just need to grab it real quick. And it's just something there in that, for you to go to if you need money for like a little emergency. But the bigger the emergency, you put that in a high yield savings account, so that money makes money. So it might be 4%. That's why it's in that no more than 6 months, 1 to 6 months, and then the rest could be invested. And then once you get to a certain point, you start putting money into that that CD ladder. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's very important to pay down those liabilities because they'll just be eating away at it's like having a hole in the boat where you're just like you're trying to bail yourself out and you never get anywhere. Yeah, yeah, if you right, right. Mine I had a savings account. I just moved mine. It was making, a dollar a year. So it's like, oh, so it's not really so yeah, there are some out there. I'm sorry. You know what? I can put that in my next video. I'll research the different um savings accounts to the high yield savings accounts as options. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we've been at it for a good 45 minutes and a little bit shaky here and there, but overall, I think we had a really good um, video. So, a really good session. Is did I answer the questions as far as I want you to walk away feeling that we accomplished something from this video, and if not, please let me know, and I want to be able to help. So was there anything I said that really hit home for you? So we talked about gratitude, journaling, money mindset, everything's working out for me. You got so there's the things that to say to help you. Don't be jealous of people that have something more than you because look at them as a role model. Say, they could do it, I could do it too. And how can I do it? How is it possible? All right. Paying down my credit cards is great advice that I can use. Yeah. Yep. And believe me, I carried a balance for years saying, well, it's small enough. While I was just so scattered all over the place until once I got focused and saying, you know what? No more debt. I'm done. Paid it off. And I don't have, and then if I still use the credit card, but I make sure I pay it off at the end of the month. So that helps with mindset too. If you have the discipline to know that if I purchase something, can I pay it off at the end of the month or do I need to save it a little bit? I have so many more and thinking about how the I use the shoes as an example or a car payment as an example or how many hours of work is that you're putting down towards that car payment. But if you need a car, you need a car. So that's, sometimes it's just the expenses of life. Yeah. Should I get rid of some of my credit cards? I probably have more than I need and I use them. I have I have two now because I started the Apple one. But I mean, it just to me, I don't want to tell you what to do, but to me, I just like it's simple. The more simple, the better. So that's how I look at it. If I have credit cards all over the place and then it makes more confusion, and then you're more likely to lose track of something if you have too many. That's my advantage or my point of view about having multiple credit cards. Some people are good at it. They're just, well, I use this one for this one, and they just have it all together. They can do it. To me, it just makes me more confused, and it increases my anxiety when there's too many things going on. So to me, the more simple, the better. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. So I'll be posting a thumbnail of the for the next live. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.